For over 150 years, brave men and women have been fighting fires in the United States with honor and courage. Over the years, the firefighting community has become a strong family with strong traditions. Since the beginning, the rich heritage has been passed on from generation to generation, passing on the collective knowledge, tradition, and experience to the younger members of the service. In time, they become the veterans and the cycle repeats. But the last few decades have been different. The world has changed. Our culture has changed, and fires have changed. In the past few decades, the use of plastics and other synthetic building materials have caused fires to develop faster, reaching the flashover stage in just a few minutes. The smoke in these fires has changed as well, evolving into a hotter, deadlier mixture of toxic gases. We can't continue to work the same way in smoke. It's just not the same stuff. Hi, I'm Rob Schnepp. Let's talk about smoke. Smoke is part of the job. It always has been. The old-timers in this business were even referred to as smoke eaters. To earn that title was a badge of courage. As firefighters, we understand smoke and how it indicates the behavior of a fire. We view smoke as a tactical marker, and we use it to plan our attack. Anyone that does this job for any length of time will end up breathing some smoke, whether it's on purpose or not. It's part of the job, right? Well, maybe it shouldn't be. Every firefighter will breathe a little smoke here and there, but the fact is we need to change our perspective on smoke because smoke has changed. Let me show you something. Firehouse chili. A classic firefighter meal. And this chili is a great way to talk about smoke. You can think about chili in the same way you can think about smoke. The gases in the smoke are like the sauce in the chili, and the beans and the meat represent the particulates in smoke, soot particles mostly. However, unlike our chili, the recipe for smoke has changed. A few decades ago, smoke had a different composition. Today, with plastics and other synthetics, smoke generates a deadlier mix of toxic gases. In a typical structure fire, some of the gases that would be produced during the combustion process would include the oxides of nitrogen, hydrogen sulfide, carbon dioxide, and carbon monoxide. Among those gases, we find hydrogen cyanide. And cyanide is the king of smoke toxins. It's over 30 times deadlier than carbon monoxide. Hydrogen cyanide is generated by the combustion of natural and synthetic materials. Anytime hydrogen, carbon, and nitrogen are involved in the combustion process, cyanide will be formed. Even natural materials such as wood, silk, and cotton can generate cyanide. But the significant change, and what's important to firefighters, is that the contents of the structure have changed. The use of synthetic polymers and plastics like nylon, polyurethane and polyethylene, synthetic rubber and melamine, all of these cause fires to burn faster, hotter, and generate more toxic smoke. This means everything from TVs and computers to bedding materials and cushioning, carpet, insulation, foams, and laminates used in cabinets. All these products produce high levels of hydrogen cyanide in fire smoke. If you're exposed to enough of it, hydrogen cyanide will kill you. And trust me, it doesn't take much. Exposure to a low concentration of hydrogen cyanide, around 135 parts per million, causes death in about 30 minutes. Higher concentrations, around 3,400 parts per million, cause death in less than a minute. But what that means to the firefighter is that there's a threat. The threat of becoming exposed if you don't wear your SCBA. When inhaled, the concentration of cyanide at a typical fire scene is high enough to incapacitate a firefighter in just a few seconds. If this salt represents cyanide, and we add it to this chili, it would only take about this much. And keep in mind, it would only take one bite of the chili to kill you. If you knew your chili was poisoned with cyanide, would you eat it? Of course not. And now that you know that there are lethally toxic levels of cyanide in fire smoke, do you still want to breathe it? Without the proper use of your SCBA, you are. When you combine hydrogen cyanide with carbon monoxide, the effects of these two toxins can be even more harmful. Smoke inhalation is the leading cause of fire-related fatalities, as much as 80%. According to a 2006 NFPA study, 87% of people who died in fires had toxic blood concentrations of cyanide. Victims die from breathing fire smoke long before the fire could kill them. Firefighters who breathe fire smoke are exposing themselves to the same deadly levels of hydrogen cyanide. This program will educate you about the deadly threat of cyanide and its toxic twin, carbon monoxide. You will learn how smoke and cyanide affect you, how you can prevent exposure, and what to do if you have been exposed. First, let's find out what cyanide does to your body. So here's a guy who obviously doesn't know what he's breathing. At the molecular level, hydrogen cyanide is a cyanide molecule, which is a triple bonded carbon and nitrogen atom which is bonded to hydrogen to become airborne and, well, this isn't a chemistry class. What you really need to know is how it kills you. Dr. David Penny, a PhD and world-renowned toxicologist, created the following animation to illustrate the deadly and destructive impact of cyanide and carbon monoxide in your body.
Red blood cells pick up oxygen from the lungs and carry it throughout your body in the blood. Each red blood cell has a certain number of seats, if you will, and each seat can carry one molecule of oxygen. The entire body is supplied with oxygen in this way. As the red blood cells travel through the capillaries, they release their oxygen into the surrounding cells of the various organs and tissues. Each cell converts oxygen into the energy it needs to properly function. When cyanide and carbon monoxide enter the bloodstream, a devastating chain of events begins. Cyanide directly impacts the cells by disabling their ability to convert oxygen into usable energy. When the cells are starved of oxygen, no energy is created and the cells begin to die. Even though oxygen reaches the cell, cyanide has disabled the cell's ability to use it. The brain cannot function without a constant supply of oxygen. When this occurs, a person may experience disorientation and confusion. If enough brain tissue is affected, a loss of consciousness occurs.
So here's lesson 1. Cyanide disables the body's ability to use oxygen, which is not a good thing. At this point, the brain and body have been attacked by cyanide, causing the inability to think and move. Now let's add carbon monoxide. We call hydrogen cyanide combined with carbon monoxide the toxic twins because they work together synergistically to hurt you.
Again, red blood cells have a limited number of seats to transport oxygen, and carbon monoxide starts competing for those seats. In fact, the red blood cells prefer to hold carbon monoxide, about 250 times more than oxygen. Carbon monoxide then replaces oxygen in the bloodstream. Cyanide, unchallenged by oxygen, continues to invade the cells. Within a few seconds, the toxic effects worsen, and the body begins to shut down, ultimately resulting in a loss of consciousness. Even with exposure to clean air, the body is now filled with toxins that will continue to prevent oxygen from reaching the brain, heart, and the rest of the body. In this scenario of acute incapacitating exposure, the physical condition deteriorates into cardiac arrest.